My goodness, my goodness. My DM is filled with angry people after what happened yesterday. We did 2 live shows yesterday. One on the compromise deal, the Kumbaya agreement that's probably going to lead to a Florida State Clemson walking out of the courtroom. It's probably going to lead to possibly a little bit less punishing exit fees and cost if a school leaves the ACC in 2031. It's most definitely going to get the ACC to be able to join the Big 12 and the other conferences at the PET, the private equity dinner table. But, you know, I've got ACC people not happy and mad with me. I got a whole bunch of Big 12 people. Holy smokes. Greg, come on. This doesn't mean anything. The ACC, we can still poach those schools. Greg, you're misreading everything. This doesn't do it. This was a simple transaction. ESPN picked up the option. There's nothing else that's going on. I think I'm going to get yelled at by both sides. This is why I am truly the most unpopular college football YouTube host in the country, and it's not even close. Maybe, just maybe, it's time for a truce. Maybe, just maybe, it's time to put the knives away. Maybe, just maybe, there can be a start, a formation of a budding relationship between the ACC and the Big 12. Maybe you need to have that budding relationship start to form, or maybe it's already started to happen. We are going to get into it all here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner. Thank you for coming on in. We are live. Welcome to PATC. We've had a very busy month. Holy smokes, it's January 31st. If you are new to our channel, please hit the subscribe button. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends if you want to support this College Football Rebel Outpost channel with a donation. Hit the $ where you make a comment and I'll get you a super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls later in the show. Welcome everybody. Gorb, as much as I hate it, but I've been saying forever that the Big 12 and the ACC must align somehow. I think Gorb is on something, or he's on to something. And I think he's on to something. Because the budding relationship between the Big Ten and the SEC is real, and real. We're going to go back just, it seems like a long time ago. We are going to go back 8 days ago. 8 days ago, Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports article. We're going to go through a couple pages of an article. It's going to take us a few minutes talking about the SEC and the Big Ten's budding relationship. That's the term he has used. You remember I did a second live show, an emergency live show, talking about Tony Petitti entering into the Holy Smokes Theater, the Big Ten commissioner, and the drama that is being played at the Holy Smokes Theater is the private equity invasion. Remember all that? We set that up. Last a couple months ago because we knew this was going to be the story. We did a show yesterday, and I said I'm going to be doing a little poking and prodding on that. I'm going to be doing a little bit of poking and prodding on that huge story that Sporticle broke. And yesterday during the live show, I took the big L. I took the big L here because we had no idea that was going on in the Big Ten. That they've already had a round of with private equity firms bidding on some potential business with the Big Ten, mostly probably in relationship with sponsorships, but we don't know. We don't know all the details. Well, I did some poking and prodding, and what I got back was, it looks like it's happening, and the SEC is either doing the same thing or they're going to do the same thing. This doesn't surprise anybody. Now, it's the first public report of the Big Ten doing this. Nobody was telling me that. Nobody was telling anybody that. But after I poked and prod, after this report came out, after I did the live show, I got the feedback, yes, it's not like the SEC is going to be angry that the Big Ten's doing this. Going into private equity, doing some sort of deal here. It looks like they're going to. They have the option, right? They have the option, just like the Big 12. And now the ACC has that option. And I started talking to this individual, and this individual reminded me, look, the ACC just tweaked their deal a little bit, just a little bit. There's going to be a brand fund. It ain't going to be too much money. There's going to be a little bit more unequal revenue share. It's just tweaked a little bit. But in doing so, Florida State has the ability to make a little bit more money in Clemson and Miami, and so do the other programs, but basically the top branded programs have a leg up on making a little bit more money, and by the way, if you add all that money up, and they're getting right with Oregon and Washington when it comes to conference payout money. So the Big Ten isn't going to, they're going to do whatever they can, and they're going to be probably successful. We'll find out how successful in juicing up the coffers of the 18 member institutions, and keep an eye on Washington and Oregon. They're going to make more money because of their association with the Big Ten. These deals are coming. They're coming all over the place. All sorts of deals are going to be made here in 2025. So some people said it's Big Ten greed. Well, everybody's serving their own self-interest here. But if you notice, and we're going to go back in an article of 9 days ago, the Big Ten and the SEC have a budding relationship. They are working on stuff. The scheduling agreement, they're about to call the shots on the new college football playoff format in 2026. We just saw what the ACC did. The Big 12 are going to be making some deals. Brett Yormark is going to be making some deals. But can there be a deal made between the Big 12 and the ACC? I got a couple ideas in mind, a couple ideas that have been told to me by the chatter behind the curtain. Can the Big 12 and the ACC put their knives away? ACC is not going anywhere, at least into 2031, 2030, 2029, whatever. But that's basically the same, who knows where the Big 12 is going to be at that point. Everybody thinks they've got the edge over the other. I see it all over X. Well, the Big 12's got an edge. We're still ready to poach you, and the ACC's, oh, come on. And I've talked about the advantages and disadvantages of both conferences. But maybe it's time to let the old ways die. Maybe it's time to work together when you can. And we're going to go over a couple of those ideas. And also today is Friday. Friday, January 31st. What does that mean? We're going to get into that. It has to do with the House and NCAA settlement. We have got a stacked show today. Thank you, Gorb, for your generosity. I do appreciate it, helping us keep the lights on. Ricky Tungate, great. Greg hopes this helps you with your upgrade. Thank you, Mr. Tungate. Wow, what a super chat. What a donation. Incredible generosity once again from Mr. Hoosier. He's done it over and over again. You've been such a great supporter of our channel, and I humbly thank you. And so does the moderator, the one who rules with an iron fist. I see that she's in the chat room. Thank you, Mr. Tungate, for your incredible, absolutely incredible generosity. Thank you, Gorb. Thank you, Ricky Tungate. Thank you so very much. We're going to get to the gift memberships here in a moment. R Web and Bill G, I'm going to get to you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Bill G. Once again, I will get to you. I want to do a quick roll call before we get too deep into this. Daniel Gygax, Mr. Mountaineer, Still Austin, Patrick Bear, E2 Brute. Wow. Wow, Patrick Bear. CFB Plus, Bo Weaver, Mr. Clemson. Hello, big guy. Go Clemson 2025. And we are going to get into it. We're going to start talking about these football teams. We're getting into February. We're going to be going into March. And, you know, one of the big stories that we haven't hit on yet, spring football is, I believe, is starting to fade away in importance. But we're going to wait on that, and we're going to wait for more public reporting on that. I know Nebraska is stepping away from it. I know Minnesota did last year. Other programs are as well. In the day and age of 365-day free agency, and everything's just crazy right now. Maybe spring football leaves and comes back, but right now, a little bit is fading away. To Mazda, the Big Alliance Plus, Notre Dame. Bob Swanger is in the house. Vox Quindaro is in the house. What is Flugar upgrading? I'm going from Diet Coke to Diet Cherry Coke. No, I've been doing Cherry Coke. New computer. We got to wait for my producer, Colin Murray, my nephew, the genius behind PATC. We got to wait for him to get back here. He's been busy in Washington, D.C. He's in Washington, D.C. right now. We got to get him back here because I need him. We're gonna look a little different. Everything, not everything, but some things are gonna look a little different before we kick off the 2025 football season, and that includes new technology. Stephen Vitt, Ohio Bobcat, is in the house. Xavier Wolf is here. Jay Chapman, Mr. Buckeye Gerald Jones, Xavier Wolf, Maria Hernandez Garcia Flugar, the one who rules with an iron fist. Mireya is getting ready. She's getting ready. Today is Friday. She's just worked a whole lot of hours this week, and she's ready to go to a dancing party Saturday tomorrow. So look out world. Here comes Mireya Hernandez Garcia, Rojas Vargas Flugar. She's getting her dancing shoes on. Kerry Gold Nose is in the house. He wastes no time throwing an elbow at those Tar Heels. Holy smokes. MBM. There isn't a brand in the ACC that's bigger than our OU in Texas. Very possible the SEC takes no one from the ACC. Sankey said they won't expand for the sake of expanding. I agree with a lot of that, but I think in the future years there's going to be... I happen to think there's going to be Tar Heel Blue in the SEC, but you may be correct, MBM. You may be correct. To Mazda Private Equity. Morris Simmons is in the house. John Dry is here. Marketex. Big 12 to Stanford and Cal. I guess you're not going to play in Lubbock after all. Expedition Greg is in the house. Bill G, thank you so much once again for your incredible generosity. My goodness. Bill G with another gifted of 5 memberships. Matthew Carlson, Drayon Love, Dre and No Love, NC Monk, and The Architect all been gifted a membership by the generosity of Bill G. Please, when you get an opportunity, say thank you to Bill G. Bill G has been doing this for a long time. I'm so very humbled by your kindness, sir. Thank you, Bill G. All of you are knighted Cloak and Dagger officially. For the 5 new members, go to the YouTube channel and check out Early Peak Cloak and Dagger membership only episodes. And of course, we got over 400 of the other episodes that are for everybody. A lot of content in the Peek Around the Corner library. Go check it out. Go check it out. Maria says, thanks all. Thank you, Bill G. Very much appreciated. Mick Stevens. Go Frogs. Who else is here? Christopher Shannon. Top 32 merged to form a new Big Atlantic Conference. Get rid of the non-football serious schools. Wow. Wow. Don Scruggs, Mr. Bulldog, is here. Mr. Monkey Says is in the house. Holy smokes. Chef Maul. Did I miss anybody? If I missed anybody, I do apologize so very much. And we've got our web, a new member of Early Peak Cloak and Dagger. Our web, who has been in the PATC family for quite a long time. Thank you, our web. I appreciate your generosity. You are knighted. Cloak and Dagger, welcome. You are now a member of our channel, our Rebel Outpost channel. Thank you, our web, so very much. All right, let's get to it, guys. Let's get to it. I do got my head on a swivel. First of all, where is that? I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up here. According to the Hornets, you know who the Hornets are, right? You all know who the Hornets are, right? The Sacramento State Hornets. They voted to approve a $2.5 million loan for a potential FBS transfer. 8-2 Friday morning. This is half of the $5 million they would need to make the move. Remember, a couple years ago, a new rule was put in place that if you wanted to jump to the FCS into an FBS conference, you were going to have to pay out $5 million. Sacramento State has got a loan for $2.5 million. They're halfway there, and we've heard all these stories that Sacramento State has received all this money for NIL, for a stadium, for all this stuff. Now, I have not personally received any information that connects Sacramento State to the Pac-12 and their expansion plans. I've seen the reports. I get it. I'm just telling you, me personally, PATC, we have not gotten the word on that. Now, the only thing I've been told on the Sacramento State Hornets is, of course, they're looking to go FBS. There are other options out there. That they're looking at. So it's just not a Pac-12 or bust situation. But I have not heard this direct connection between the Hornets and the Pac-12. But I will keep you updated. Maybe other people have got that, but I do not got that. Okay, we are going to get into, today is a special day. Before we get into your information on hold on one second. Before we get into your thoughts, your comments, on the possibility of the Big 12 and the ACC starting to form a budding relationship, we got to talk about the importance of today. There was no way that we could do a live show, even with all this other stuff going on, even with all you wanted to speculate. Let me know your thoughts and what should happen, if anything should happen between the Big 12 and the ACC. And I got a couple of ideas. I've been told a couple of ideas. I'm going to go through it first, and then I want to hear it from you all. And I got a feeling that most of you are going to be saying, I don't want nothing to do with the other side. Nothing. They're the weaker ones. We're going to pick from their carcass. Now, it's going to take a few more years, but just hear me out, and then I'm going to hear you all out. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about the importance of Friday, January 31st, when it comes to the House versus NCAA settlement, or what we think is going to be a settlement. Expedition Greg, go Buckeyes. Thank you for your friendship, Greg. Thank you for your friendship. Appreciate the super chat, Mr. Buckeye. Expedition Greg, thank you so very much for everything you do for this channel. And you do a lot for this channel. I do appreciate it. Vox Quindaro, holy smokes. Rock Chalk Jayhawk. PATC chat waits for no man. We want what we want when we want it. Dadgummit. Holy smokes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Woo! Vox Quindaro, another massive super chat. My goodness, thank you for your incredible generosity, which you have done like 100 times over. And that's not even an exaggeration. Thank you, Expedition Greg. I do appreciate it. My goodness. And I love that you are creative, of course. PATC chat waits for no man. Well, I want to know what Vox wants. You put in a massive super chat, which I'm very humbled by, but I want to know, do you, Kansas, who happens to be at the top two most valuable brands in the Big 12, do you want to start a budding relationship with the ACC? Does the Rock Chalk Jayhawk want to put away their knives? I don't even really sure Kansas has been really involved in the back and forth. To be honest with you, as an institution, I think they've got other things in mind for possibly early and mid 2030s, but I want to hear what Vox Quindaro has to say on that in the chat room or with his phone calls later on, because that will be quite interesting. So I want to hear from Vox. Thank you so much for your incredible generosity. Ryan Willie gifted a membership. My goodness, Ryan Willie, the Evil Badger, helping us out once again, putting down a giving a gift membership. Hopefully I haven't lost the person. Tim O'Hara gifted a membership. Tim and Ryan Willie, both of you are knighted. Cloak and Dagger, thank you so very much. When you get an opportunity, Tim, please say thank you to Mr. Ryan Willie for his generosity once again. Thank you, Mr. Evil Badger. You are no doubt the classiest Evil Badger that there is. Give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. I got to check something out. Give me 1 second. Hold on. Hold on. We are going to get into the monologue. We're going to get to your phone calls. We got a very interesting show up ahead. It's taken us a while to get going here. So Mr. O'Hara and Ryan Willie, thank you. O'Hara, when you get an opportunity, go to the YouTube channel and check out our early peak Cloak and Dagger episodes. I want the axe back. You are not getting it back. Ryan Willie, you are not getting it back. The axe is going to stay in Minneapolis for a very long time, or at least past this next season. Give it your best shot, Ryan. Give it your best shot. Thank you so much for your generosity. I very much appreciate it. PATC is growing in a large part to you, Mr. Oklahoma State Cowboy, for all your comments, participation, and donations. Thank you, Mr. Oklahoma State Cowboy, for everything you've done. Appreciate it so much. Movie Time Blues wants stability. Merger? Unlikely, but there might be another idea in the CFP comment that might work out. Okay. Thank you, Vox. Very, very much. Appreciate it, sir. Okay. All right. Let's get to it. Why is today so important? Why is today so important? Judge weighs $2.8 billion NCAA settlement amid objection filings. Dan Murphy, ESPN article, January 31st, today, this afternoon. Now, I have it in the description box. If you go read the description box, the next two important days on the calendar, in my opinion, are the dates of February 19th, which we're going to get into, where the Big Ten and the SEC in their budding relationship are going to go out on another date, and they're going to go out on another date in New Orleans, Louisiana. And the next important date on the college football calendar is April 7th. April 7th. And that day is when we believe that Judge Wilkin will rule or delay or implement some changes or. But April 7th is going to be a very important day in the calendar. Let's get to the article. And then we're going to talk about the budding relationship of the Big Ten and the SEC. And then can the ACC and the Big 12 put their knives away? Dan Murphy, Friday's deadline for filing objections to the nearly $2.8 billion NCAA antitrust settlement yielded more than a dozen legal challenges attacking the landmark deal. 4 antitrust experts told ESPN the deal is still likely to be approved, but some objections have the potential to delay, reshape, or derail it. Holy smokes. Any significant delay in the settlement could create a new wave of uncertainty and chaos for college athletic departments who have made plans to begin paying their athletes this summer. Many of the contracts athletes have already signed. Oh my goodness, you mean athletes have already been signing contracts? Yes, they have. Yes, they have, as we have reported to you before the settlement became official. Athletes from every conference, from every school, almost every school, have been signing contracts. Many of the contracts athletes have already signed would allow the schools to back out of paying players if the settlement is not approved. So the institutions, they have an exit out, right? They have an exit out if the settlement's not approved. They can say, well, this contract is null and void. Some state have passed. Now listen to this. Listen to this. Some states have passed laws that would clear the way for their schools to start paying players even if the settlement fails, which could leave them an advantage in recruiting or retaining athletes. So if you're thinking this is chaos, and it is, if you think the NCAA versus House settlement is chaos and won't stand for a lot of lawsuits that are going to be coming in the next few months, think about if it doesn't happen, if it isn't approved, this settlement on April 7th. You're talking about chaos that is going to, forget about keeping your head on a swivel. Keep your head on a stick, because your head is going to fly off. The chaos is going to be unbelievable. If Judge Wilkin doesn't approve or at least, modify but approve it, whatever. If she derails it, holy smokes. Back to the article. This settlement would allow schools to directly pay their athletes moving forward and force the NCAA to pay back damages to a group of more than 100,000 former and current athletes who claim to be the victims of antitrust violations. The large majority of these damages would be paid to football and men's basketball players. Today, January 31st, is the last day that you can file objection filings. Today's it on this case. And they're coming in fast and furious, but that is why today is so important. The athletes and lawyers who filed objections in the last week raised concerns with several parts of the pending settlement, including claims that future limits on how much schools can give to the athletes create a new illegal cap, and it does, violating the same laws that prompted these cases to be filed. Claims that the $2.8 billion damages payout is too low, and the formula used to distribute that money is unfair to women athletes, walk-on athletes, and others. A clause that places a limit on the team's rosters could eliminate thousands of opportunities. It will, and it has. It's already occurred, and more is coming for athletes to play Division I sports in the future. Alleged conflicts of interest for the plaintiff's attorneys, including a clause that obligates them to use reasonable efforts to support NCAA lobbying in Congress. And that's what's going on right now for a new law limiting future antitrust challenges on the spending limits established through the settlement. Judge Claudia Wilkin, who has presided over multiple NCAA-related lawsuits in the past decade, has scheduled a hearing on the settlement for April 7th. Her mandate is to determine if the deal is fair, reasonable, and adequate for all Division I athletes in their schools. Wilkin can approve the deal. She can approve the deal in its current form, ask for a revision based upon the objections, or reject the deal and push the case towards trial. These objections are not made by folks who just want to get on the record. There is real possibility these impact the settlement, said Jeremy Duru, a sports law professor at American University. Some of them are quite valid. And I do think Judge Wilkin will view them that way. But Duru and 3 other specialists in the antitrust and sports law told ESPN that the objections raised legitimate problems that could reshape or potentially even derail the deal, but they all said it is more likely than not that Wilkin will approve the settlement. This is so far down the road, so far down the tracks, it's going to be hard to stop, said University of Illinois sports law professor Michael Leroy. A judge at this point is loath to create uncertainty for the parties. My heart is saying, don't accept the settlement. But the rational part of me says, how doesn't this get done? Steve Berman and Jeffrey Kelsler, the co-lead attorneys for the plaintiffs, did not respond to the phone calls seeking comment about the objections. The lead plaintiff, who initially filed the first of these 3 antitrust claims, former Arizona State swimmer Grant House, told ESPN last month the deal was not perfect, but that he believes it's a huge step forward for athletes. I think the best that it could be done was done, at least as perceived through the lawyers and experts' eyes, House said. House said he often didn't find out about the developments in the negotiations until they were reported in the news during the past few years, which left him frustrated and feeling detached from the process. He says it's hopeful that the settlement is a step forward, giving athletes a more permanent, impactful voice in the future. At the same time, college sports leaders view the settlement as their own stepping stone toward regaining control over a system and marketplace that has swung in favor of athletes during the last several years. Their plan is to use the new benefits athletes will receive to convince Congress to provide them with an antitrust exemption. PATC believes they're going to get it. PATC believes they are going to get it. That's it for that article. So that is why today is so important. January 31st. If you got an objection, Stephen Clark, Mr. Monkey says, John Dry, Steele Austin, Vox Quindaro. If you got an objection, you got to file it today. On this case, you got to file it today. After today, the door shuts. So it's a very important day, and I could not do a monologue on a live show without talking about this one more time. April 7th. April 7th is a massive, epic, important day on the calendar. What is Judge Claude Wilkin going to do? Approve, delay, derail, adjust the settlement? We are going to find out, but there's going to be more and more reporting on this in the weeks and a couple months ahead until we get to April 7th. I'm telling you, if this thing gets derailed, holy smokes. I happen to believe, I'm going to give you my opinion, and I want to hear your opinion in the comments and with your phone calls later in the show. It's my opinion that there is so much inertia because of the uncertainty of everything. The uncertainty of April 7th. And even afterwards, even if it's approved, especially if it's derailed, I think there is so much inertia from all the parties, almost all the parties. When I'm talking about the parties, I'm talking about all the conferences and Charlie Baker, and that they expect a carve-out to happen, a federal carve-out. I think that is the push, and I think they're going to get it over the finish line. What it looks like, who knows? So that's what I think is going to happen. Let me know what you think is going to happen. But now let's get to the Big Ten, the SEC's budding relationship, and the question. The question, can the Big 12 and the ACC put their knives away? Can they put their knives away? Can they form their own budding relationship? Let me know with your comments and with your phone calls later in the show because, well, let's go through something here first. This goes back. We're taking a step backwards. This seems like a month ago, but it was only 9 days ago. This was a January 22nd article from Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports. The SEC and the Big Ten are scheduled to hold a second joint meeting of their athletic directors next month, where conference leaders are expected to deeply explore the future of the college football playoff format. The meeting, set for February 19th in New Orleans, comes a week before the College Football Playoff Commissioners meet in Dallas. Remember, February 19th, and then a week later, all the commissioners arrive in Dallas. February 19th, in New Orleans, Big Ten and SEC. A week before, all the other commissioners meet in Dallas to discuss the future of the playoff, its format and governance structure. Those with knowledge of the meeting spoke to Yahoo Sports under condition of anonymity. The SEC and the Big Ten's gathering marks a second step in the budding relationship, as we use that term in our title screen. Big Ten, SEC's budding relationship between the two leagues that announced a partnership last spring. Their athletic directors met in Nashville in October, a historic event in one of the first gatherings of two major conference administrators in recent NCAA history. So it was very unique. The February 19th meeting, which is 20 days away, is expected to focus on the playoff format and governance, as well as to transition into a post-settlement world with athlete revenue sharing. The NCAA and Power League's landmark settlement of the House case is up for approval in April and implementation in July. But perhaps the most interesting topic is the expanded playoffs future format. And the last page we're going to cover in this article, we covered it 9 days ago, but I just want to set the table on something. I just want to set the table for this live show. While executives agreed on a future revenue distribution model last spring, weighted heavily for the SEC and the Big Ten, a future format was not finalized. But certain protections were agreed upon, including an automatic spot for the 5 highest-ranked conference champions, a 12 or 14 team field, and qualification guarantees for independents like Notre Dame related to their place in the rankings. The format is a divisive topic at times. Many expect the Big Ten, and perhaps the SEC too this time, will again propose a format that assigns multiple automatic qualifiers to single conferences. I happen to believe, I've got good reasons to believe, I said it was a fait accompli weeks ago. We believe this is going to a 4-4 automatic qualifiers for the Big Ten and the SEC, and 2-2 for the Big 12 and the ACC. Now, the Big Ten just did this, we talked about it yesterday. We're not going to go through it on this live show. Big Ten courts private equity investment, retains Evercore, The Big Ten Conference is taking preliminary bids from private equity firms to better support its 18-member institutions. The conference is evaluating potential strategic partnerships in order to enhance the conference event sponsorships and other ancillary business endeavors. So, again, it's not going to be like a massive private equity deal that other conferences are discussing with other private equity firms or capital, but something around the margins to probably produce a little bit more money. As we talked at the beginning of the show, here's Oregon, here's Washington, right? They're taking half the media money that the other Big Ten schools are getting. Florida State and Clemson and these schools are getting right close to Oregon and Washington in payouts. So the Big Ten, they're going to be looking out for their 18 members. They're going to pump a little bit more money into the coffers. And then you've got the Big Ten and the SEC most highly probably going to be doing a scheduling deal that's going to pump more money into the coffers. A budding relationship. I wanted to go all the way back and make sure we all set the table here. The question I have for you, is it time for the Big 12 and the ACC to put away their knives and come together and form their own budding relationship? From the DMs that I have received since the kumbaya moment of the ACC yesterday, I would say either 99% or 100% of the comments I've received from fans of Big 12 schools, if it was yesterday, they would have answered me, hell no. Nothing has changed. The ACC is still ready to be picked apart. Nothing has changed, Greg. Florida State and Clemson, they're probably not going to leave the courtroom. Nothing has changed. That conference ain't going to stay together into 2029, 2030. But I'm wondering, have the opinions changed? A couple ideas have been spoken to me by people that chatter behind the curtain. One is the big one we've been talking about, right? The invasion of private equity. We got North Carolina. We've got Big 12 up on the stage. And we did a live show yesterday that had Tony Petitti entering the Holy Smokes Theater for the first time since June 15th of last year. Now, look, this is a wild speculation. People are all hunting for these private equity stories. All of them. All of them. All of them. Pete Thamel, I'm not going to name names, but all of them. I just mentioned a name. But they're all doing it. Spartaco got something here. Now maybe Moen, Mr. Buckeye, maybe he was correct in saying maybe the Big Ten leaked this to Spartaco. That's possible. That could be very well possible. But whatever. Sportico got it somehow. Other people are digging. I know they are. And I think we're going to get reports here real soon on other activities of the Big Ten, SEC, ACC, Mountain West Conference, AAC, all of them. There has been, this is wild speculation, but maybe one of these things that maybe the ACC and the Big 12 perhaps perceiving both are stable for at least the next 5 years, and the Big Ten SEC calling all these shots, and the Big Ten SEC making these scheduling agreements. What if the Big 12 and the ACC can get a scheduling agreement together? Now, it's going to be more difficult. It's going to be more difficult because Clemson and Florida State Clemson has a non-conference game every year with South Carolina. That's not going away. Florida State with Miami. That's not going away. And now Florida State, Miami, and Clemson are going to be playing Notre Dame more often. It's going to be difficult to get the top ACC brands to agree to play the Big 12. And how much more money are you going to get out of it? But that is one potential possibility. But what about this other big idea? What about a private equity deal? We're not talking about merger here. I'm not talking merger. But what about a private equity deal? Now, I know it sounds crazy. Probably won't happen, right? Right? It probably won't happen. We've said that private equity, we've been told that private equity, the reporters are hunting. It's going to come in all different ways and manners. It's not going to be a one-size-fit-all. I've read the debates going back and forth. on what the Big Ten is trying to do. Right? That's going to look a lot different than other deals out there. I have read people talking about what the Big 12 was offered months ago. 15%, 20% stake on $800 million to $1 billion, $1.2 billion. That was probably one offer. I'm guessing there's a bunch of other offers out there, and I'm guessing that offer is old news, right? Maybe not, but there has been a ton of, all I can tell you, there's been a ton of rumors, all different types of deals. One of those wild rumors is the Big 12 and the ACC taking their Super League ideas of everybody joining a Super League and making a Super League, but yet with two separate conferences, but a Super League of the Big 12 and the ACC. Now, I have been saying, since we've opened up the Holy Smokes Theater, since the first week of December, I have been able to push the envelope as far as I can. And I've told you that West Virginia's been pro-private equity, that North Carolina is leading this, that Wake Forest, Syracuse, there's a couple of Texas schools in the Big 12 that I'm unable to name. Maybe tomorrow, I don't know. I'll check to see if I can push the envelope even more, that are extremely pro-private equity and they're ready to do their own individual deals that probably won't interfere with what Brett Yormark is trying to do. But what if the ACC and the Big 12 come together right now over private equity? Huh? Taking that big Super League idea and maybe shrink it a bit or a lot. You're not going to get $9 billion probably, but do something to enhance the ACC and the Big 12. ACC and the Big 12 hand over some sort of revenue streams to them. I'm just throwing it out there. You know, and I've reported to you that there's been private equity meetings with Smash Capital that have had some Big 12 institutions and some ACC institutions going to these meetings. I have used the word cross-pollination to describe these meetings. I have also reported to you, and I don't know what day it was. I don't know if these days and weeks and months are all going together. Maybe a month ago, I reported that there is going to be a meeting, a private equity meeting, that are going to have Big 12 institutions at it, the ACC institutions at it, and I don't believe the Big 10 and the SEC are going to be there. Remember I reported that? It's going to happen in early spring. So again, I'm just throwing it out there. It's a wild shot. It's a wild shot. But maybe, just maybe, the Big 12 and the ACC should think about forming their own budding relationship. Because right now the SEC and the Big 10 are working together. They're working together. They are going to pound out that new playoff format to their liking. They're going to have, I'm going to give you another reason why there should be a Big 12, why there should be a Big 12 and ACC budding relationship starting today. This is the biggest reason of them all. And again, this was told to me by someone, the chatter behind the curtain. Because as the Big 10 and the SEC leverage their power, push the chips in the middle of the table, threaten to do this, threaten to break away, blah, 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 blah. They used their power. The same thing that happened then is happening now, but in Washington, D.C. They're using their voices. They're using their voices to make sure that that federal carve-out doesn't cut them, doesn't take the legs out from under the Big 10 and the SEC and all the advantages that they have created and are enjoying. Charlie Baker ain't going to speak for the ACC and the Big 12. But Sankey and Petita are speaking together. So maybe, just maybe, it's time for Brett Yormark and Jim Phillips to speak together and those institutions to speak together. For example, lots of examples. For example, ACC and the Big 12, whatever this federal carve-out is, don't make it too loosey-goosey of a cap, of a salary cap. Don't make it like Major League Baseball. Don't make it like the Buckeyes can spend whatever they want and not pay some sort of luxury tax. Whatever that is, whatever that federal carve-out is, that's gonna be taking over a lot of these subjects, and it's gonna be putting guardrails on it, and it's not gonna be perfect. But the Big 12 and the ACC, they need to speak up now. Together. Because the Big 10 and the SEC are. And once again, my name is Mud at the Big 10 offices. Well, my name is already Mud. But I'm telling you this. Put away the knives. Put away the knives. Nobody's poaching anybody. Not for a while. Florida State and Clemson, they're going to get out of that courtroom. They're going to get out of that courtroom. They have squeezed about as much as they could get out of it. They want to be at the private equity table just as much as West Virginia, as Oklahoma State, as the rest of the Big 12, as the Big 10 institutions want. Put the knives away. Now, yesterday, again, I'm going to say this before I get to your phone calls. Yesterday, 99% of the Big 12 fans of Big 12 schools were letting me have it. Come on. The ACC is there for the pickings. Nothing has changed. I believe it has changed. The ACC hasn't solved their issues, but they have solved their stability issue. And that is going to open doors for other things, private equity and being able to deal with Brett Yormark. Make some deals. Brett Yormark is a dealing man. He's wheeling and dealing all the time. Just my thoughts. Just my thoughts. We are going to get to your super chats, and we're going to get to your phone calls. We are going to open up the lines right now. Morris Simmons, Florida State plays Clemson, Miami every year. Now we are playing Notre Dame, and I think you're going to get a little bit more juice because of that schedule, and you're going to get more tickets in your stadium. And I think Florida State gains a little bit. I think Florida State's going to walk out of the courtroom in a couple months. I know pretty much everybody disagrees with me, but Florida State wants that private equity money, and they want to have a shot. I've said this, Morris, and you know I have said this. Florida State is going to reach the level that they need to reach somehow, some way, sometime in the future. They're going to reach that stratification line because they're too big, valuable of a brand, too big of a fan base. But I've also been honest. I said I don't think it's going to happen the way many people thought it was going to happen. But this is the long road. I think you're going to get there. But I think you can claim some forms of victories on this. I happen to think Florida State's going to walk out of the court. I really, really do. I think a lot of people think I'm insane. That's fine. That is what I'm here for you all to call me insane. The fat guy from Minnesota, Morris Simmons, thank you so much for being a Cloak and Dagger member for 11 months. Mr. Seminoles has had to listen to me for 11 months. He's listened to my singing for 11 months. Morris Simmons, thank you so very much. You are hereby knighted Cloak and Dagger. Okay, let's not waste any more time. Let's not waste any more time. The phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. The phone lines are open. They're going to be open as long as you need them to be open. Let me know. Are you willing to put the dagger away? Cloak and Dagger. Are you willing to put the dagger away for the next 4 years, the next 5 years? Work together. Work together with the ACC, or if you're an ACC fan, with the Big 12. Are you willing to do it, or do you still want to go to war? To war!
Call from
CFB Plus.
CFB Plus. Thanks for calling, my man. The floor is yours.
Thank you. First off, sorry about yesterday. As soon as I called, I had to go do something.
No problem.
Not the first thing, but I agree with you. I think that right now the Big 12 and the ACC should work together because it is mutually beneficial. Since realignment is unlikely to happen, at least for the next 6 years, they have more to gain working together than being enemies. And even if down the road there is poaching, working together now is not going to change any of that. And what's more likely to happen is if they don't work together, the Big Ten and the SEC are going to consolidate more power and leave them behind entirely, where the squabbles between them are almost irrelevant. And I think the biggest leverage pool, so if you're the Big 12, I think the way you should approach this is if you create a partnership with the ACC, that is a lot of political power in terms of government and politics, because you're adding, because the Big 12 is, I don't know how many states, but you have Texas, Arizona,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oklahoma, Kansas,
Yes.
and then you're doubling down in Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, New York. You're having a significant swath of the United States. Oh, plus you have California with the ACC. So there's a significant political play.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is a federal carve-out,
Yeah.
that they could leverage that to include a Power Four.
Yes, sir.
Which is better for both of them. And then if you're the Big 12 and you are looking to raid, the chances are that in 2031, that Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, they get out of the ACC to go to the Big 10 or SEC is reasonably high. It's not a certainty, but it is a reasonable possibility. And by working with the ACC, it allows you to develop relationships with other universities that are just naturally through a partnership, that if that were to be the case and the ACC were to become available, a lot of the groundwork is already laid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I think the third biggest reason is it's just more money. The Big 12 is very much known for its basketball. If you start playing Kansas and North Carolina,
yes, sir.
Houston and Duke, Baylor and Syracuse, kind of on a regular basis, that's more money. Football is the same. West Virginia, Pitt. You can throw in Louisville, Cincinnati, UCF, Miami, or UCF, FSU. I don't know if they would want to do that, but that's a possibility. And you start doing some of these more of cross games, that's going to be more money. And especially if you can get private equity involved to kind of sponsor maybe a partnership.
Yeah, CFB plus, I agree with you. Now, that may cause your credibility in the chat room to fall because we agree with each other.
I have no credibility at all. I'm just
well, maybe you have even less because you're agreeing with the fat guy. I think it's time. I think you bring up something that I failed to bring up. Shame on me. But the political aspect of it, the federal carve out. There's a whole lot of states that the Big 12 and ACC represent. They've got 2 senators in each state. Come on. I think it's time for the Big 12 and the ACC to let the old ways die for the moment and work together when they can. And I think they can work together on a lot of things going forward now. Now that the ACC has found stability, and I think they have. Now, again, I'm not naive. It's January 31st, a day after the Kumbaya moment, and if you see my DMs or if you even see my public X comments that I sent to me, pretty much every Big 12 fan right now is saying, no, nothing's changed. So maybe we won't have this budding relationship. We shall see. But go ahead. Anything else, sir?
Nothing much. I guess the thing I would say in regards to nothing's changed, I was kind of feeling that a little bit yesterday, which it might be true that the situation in the ACC hasn't really changed that much, but what has changed is the timing of it. The ACC still may fall apart, but that if it is, that is probably going to be 6 years from now. And 6 years is a long time.
Yeah, who knows where the Big 12 is going to be? I mean, they're just trying to put themselves on the same time stamp as the Big 12, and the Big 12 is going to be able to, one of the great advantages the Big 12 has had over the ACC is that the Big 12 is going to be able to go to the open market, or at least have this exclusive window negotiations with their current media partners, Fox and ESPN. that the Big 12 is going to be able to go in there and ACC is going to have to wait another 5 years. As of today, that advantage is still true for the Big 12. So I'm not being naive here. I understand why Big 12. But again, you're not going to be poaching anybody for a while. Possibly, maybe not for a long time. Not ACC schools. Things have changed a little bit. I think it's better to work with the ACC instead of the opposite. But I appreciate your call, CFB Plus.
Thank you.
You got it, buddy.
I'll let other people talk.
You got it. Call again, sir.
All right, bye.
Bigger's Bow, as long as my Mountaineers can play its rivals. And as they roll to the playoffs, I'll be happy. Now, what about the Big 12? I want to ask this question. Steel Austin, basically. I'll get to Steel Austin. Josh Pate today says he thinks the biggest P2 brands are seeing the brand success initiative. ACC is negotiating to keep happy, and they will want the same. Very well that they could want the same.
Call from
James.
James, can you hold on for just one moment, please?
Yes.
I do appreciate it. I agree with Josh Pate, and we've been talking about this. There may be some sort of success initiative in the SEC and the Big Ten going forward. But I don't think they're going to monkey too much with the baseline media agreements. I think all boats are going to get lifted in the SEC and the Big Ten. But there very well could be a brand success incentive initiative. Absolutely. Going back to the comment, well, I'll take it off this comment from Steel Austin. What about the Big 12 now? Is the Big 12 interested in seeing what the ACC just did? Is the Big 12 schools looking at a possible brand success incentive? What if the Mountaineers make the playoffs 2 years in a row? Are they going to be able to get a little bit more money off the baseline? Not just the money from the playoffs, but from Big 12 conference payouts, just as an example. Or basketball program, or that is a question. Are anybody going to follow up what the ACC just did? Anyways, go ahead, James. The floor is yours. Thanks for the call, sir. Appreciate it.
Yesterday, when you were talking about all the North Carolina stuff, I think I figured out that they're not actually trying to lead. They're trying to get their name into the pool of the teams that get the unequal revenue. Because if FSU and Clemson can't lead, more likely they're not going to be able to afford to lead either. So it almost seems like a ploy to get their name in there. Hey, we need to be with FSU, Clemson, and Miami.
That was an incentive. North Carolina status quo could not go on. I do believe that North Carolina, they haven't, while I think they had a victory yesterday, I don't think they've gotten quite what they wanted yet. But now they have an opportunity to get what they want, and that is having the private equity option sitting at the table. That big money now, that the conference as a whole, once Florida State and Clemson leaves the courtroom, and I think they will in the next couple months, then North Carolina is going to they're going to lead that conference. Florida State, Clemson, Miami, North Carolina, they're going to lead. They're going to try to have the same options, or even better maybe, than what the Big 12 has been looking at for over the last year. That is North Carolina's biggest victory that they could get in this time frame, is to be able to dip into that private equity money that the Big Ten is looking at, and because the ACC was going to be shut out of that if they did not get their kumbaya moment behind them. They got it done. They've regained some stability. That was an incentive. But yeah, North Carolina wants to get in. They need money. They're willing to spend more money. They got Belichick. They got a big basketball brand. They need cash. And on all of this is not a solution for them, but it's a stability to open the door for that solution, and that's that third-party outside money. James, go ahead, sir.
I forget where I've been listening to it. I've heard it a few different places that FSU is still planning to go full steam with their lawsuit.
What was this now?
That FSU is planning to still go full steam on their lawsuit.
Yeah,
But
we'll
they're
see
not
about
gonna
that.
stop 'em.
We'll see.
Yeah, that's just what I've been hearing today.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Yeah. I think that was everything I had.
All right. Appreciate it, my man.
Have a good one.
You got it. Whose corner? West Virginia deserves 75% of the Big 12 revenue. Holy smokes. Stormy Cyclone, Greg, you better hope that the Big 12 doesn't go to brand pay. I'm not all that worried about it. Brand pays would be, it's not like the University of Minnesota is going to suddenly lose all this money based upon brand pay.
Call from
Rick?
Brand pay, this success initiative is money on the margins. It's going to be a little bit more money for schools that succeed, and all that stuff. And who knows, maybe Minnesota can get a little bit of that money within like a 6-year period. But it ain't going to be, as long as the Big Ten revenue keeps coming on in and it keeps elevating, I don't see why the University of Minnesota would be against a brand pay initiative. I don't think the University of Minnesota would be against the Buckeyes, Michigan, Penn State, possibly making a little bit more if they keep proving it on the football field. What Minnesota wanted to hear is a new team coming on in, a possible expansion candidate, in dictating that, that expansion candidate would get a whole lot more money than Minnesota. That's a big turnoff. That's not happening. Minnesota started the Big Ten Conference, and Minnesota will fit. No. Well, what I'm saying is, there is no. Why would Minnesota fear a brand pay? I'm thinking we don't. Go ahead, caller. The floor is yours.
Hey, I leave you alone for 24 hours, and you've got Pativi in the PATC theater.
Yeah, in the Holy Smokes Theater. Absolutely. Tony Petitti has entered. Big Ten. Did you read the article, sir, at all, or?
I did, and that's kind of why I'm calling.
Got it.
Hey, are you familiar with stocks?
Stocks?
Stocks.
Yes.
Okay. Then you know what a IPO is.
Well, I am. Yes, but I'm now. When I say I'm familiar, it doesn't mean I'm an expert. But yes, I do.
Yeah,
when you go public and all that, yeah.
Exactly, an initial public offering.
Yep.
And when they do, that's when a company goes from private to public.
Yep.
And when they do that, they think they know what the value is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they really don't know.
Yes.
Well, that's what happened with Operation Overlord here, or whatever it's called. What's the firm?
Project Osceola?
No. The private equity firm for Petit.
Oh, Evercore?
Evercore, Operation Evercore.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think all that is an attempt to get someone to put a value on the Big Ten.
Okay. Well, not on the Big Ten, but what the Big Ten is willing to have as part of the deal. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whatever percentage it is, 20%, 10%, 5%,
No,
I don't care.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think this is like a, if you read there, this is just based upon, let me read it. Hold on. This isn't like, of course, I can't find it now.
Political.
Yeah, I got it, but I'm like, it isn't. To enhance the conference event sponsorship and other ancillary business endeavors. So it's kind of like, it ain't the whole enchilada, right? It's just parts.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay. So
No, we got a disagreement there. No, I realize it's only a segment of the big of the big picture.
But I get what you're saying. They're trying to find out a value of those particular items that they're willing to put out there. Go ahead.
That's exactly correct. That's exactly correct. And you think you know what it's worth.
Yeah.
But until somebody makes an offer, you don't really know what it's worth. It's like selling a house. You sell a house, you put it on the market for $250, and the best bid you get is $190. Well, that's what the house is worth. Maybe not to you, but to everyone else. But then again, it may be worth $300,000.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I think, the reason why they were doing that. And it was interesting that the only quote from Petiti was an old one from Memphis about his saying that the only reason, I don't see any reason this isn't something that we can't do ourselves.
Yeah.
And that makes perfect sense because it's true.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And when I talked about it yesterday, it's just the great unknown. It's a great mystery. Let's assume here, just for the case of discussion, let's presume a whole bunch of equity deals coming on in, all different kinds, all different levels, and conferences and institutions are actually pulling the trigger on these, okay? But like at a conference level, it's just, we don't know. I mean, we don't know what a good deal is, right? Like the Big Ten might strike first and they might put together a deal and we're looking at it, whoa, geez, and this is a $90 million deal a year. $90 million for whatever, like more access to the student athlete, whatever it is, like certain media, like pre-game, pre-speech, whatever all this extra content you may be able to provide, whatever it all is. Maybe you extract $90 million from whoever won the bid. $90 million a year, okay? And that's like $5 million per school, okay? 18 schools. Well, you and I are going to be going, well, maybe they could have gotten more, maybe they blah, 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 blah. But then suddenly the SEC strikes the deal, and it looks like it's for the same stuff, and they get $15 million a year, right? I mean, this is the great unknown. We don't know. What if the Big 12 strikes an incredible deal with multiple big corporations? I mean, we don't. This is the great unknown. We've evaluated these media deals. We've evaluated when it comes to money, exposure, right? Now we're evaluating them based upon travel miles, the wear and tear on UCLA and things of that nature. But now we've got this whole other layer of I don't know what you call it, of value that's coming on in. And it's going to be very difficult to ascertain, boy, is this going to work? Is this this conference? They did it differently than this conference. I find all of that very fascinating. Your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, it's just like a TV contract. Not all conferences are the same. But the difference with this is, and again, I'll use the stock market analogy too here again, is when you're talking about this stuff, what you're talking about is margin lending. And margin lending is dangerous. Because if you study history of the stock market, that's what brought down the stock market in 29. People borrowing on their assets. So if they want to go that route, that's okay. But whoever does it needs to be very. I want to know what the money is going to be used for. Why are you doing this?
Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Why are conferences getting tied in with private equity?
Yes.
Well, I think now again, I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying the argument would be to bring in contacts that the private equity has, to bring in more value for your conference, to get more money for your schools. Like early in the show, I shared a conversation I had with somebody who's the chatter behind the curtain. They're telling me, look at it from the Big Ten. Rich conference, wealthy conference. But, when they were doing their media deal, when they tried to expand with Oregon and Washington, they could only give Oregon and Washington half the slice of the media money. So now if they're bringing in more money when it comes to this private equity, they can boost Washington and Oregon up a little bit, and everybody else. But they can boost them up a bit where they're getting more money than, making sure they're getting more money than the other schools and the other conferences. And you know what I'm saying? So that's just one incentive. But I think a lot of athletic departments are cash strapped because of the rev share era that we're in. They're all looking for a little bit more money.
And that's the side where I'm calling it the margin lending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're cash strapped, and this is what you're doing? No. Because what's happening is it's not like a TV contract where you're getting money coming in.
Yeah.
You're getting money to invest in, and getting money, you'll only make money off the return of your investment. And then the two share the profit.
Yes. Somebody, I don't know, we're just going to call it a strategic partner. Private equity strategic partner. They're going to, like, for example, we'll use the Big Ten thing because Sportical article. A private equity strategic partner is going to have to convince the Big Ten that when we come in this and do this deal, if you give us access to whatever, sponsorships, bringing them in, that we're going to make money for you and we're going to make money for us, and we're not going to get probably any percentage of ownership of anything. We're just going to, this is what you just said. We can make money for you, and we're going to take a little bit money off the top ourselves, of course, because that's why we're doing this. Somebody's going to have to convince the Big Ten that they can do that. Now, there are private equity companies out there that have convinced NBA franchises that they can do this for them, and the NBA franchises have brought them in. Many of them have, at 10% ownership. The NFL doing the same thing now. So there must be something there where they're adding value, where they're taking some of the money, but the NBA franchises, the NFL franchises are still coming out on top. We'll see what happens in the long run on that. I don't think, again, some of these deals are going to be, all these deals are going to look different. Some may stake ownership within the conference, right?
But the ones that are doing it in the NFL and the NBA, are they the teams that are money strapped that are doing it, or are they the teams who are rolling in dough that are doing it?
Well, when you're doing it at a conference level, everyone's involved, right?
They are.
Yeah. When it comes to individual deals, that's another story, right? I mean, the lower, the more strapped athletic departments have more of an incentive.
Where I was heading at is I don't know who's a financially poor NFL team, but are they doing it because they need the money influx? I know the Dallas Cowboys are a rich NFL team. Are the Dallas Cowboys doing this? And if they aren't, why aren't they?
Again, the NFL franchises, none of them are poor because, you know, they have a tight grip on the labor market, right? They have a salary cap that is very strong. They make sure, and they share all their media revenue, national media revenue. They share all that.
Right.
So the NFL is a money printing machine, but they just passed the rule in the NFL that you can bring in a private equity for 10% of your ownership. And the reason why, if you Google it, the reason why is because these private equity bring in so much value to the franchise because they got all these other connections with sponsorships, with other things that are like I had someone tell me, because I'm a 5-year-old and I don't understand this stuff. Someone told me, look, think of it this way. They are a legal mafia firm. They're legal mafia. They're connected everywhere. And they can, if they're meeting up with another giant entity like an NFL franchise, the NFL franchise feels pretty good that they're going to make them money and probably screw over other people. Whatever that is. I don't know enough. But it's not just the cash infusion. They don't need the cash. They need the value that these equity firms can give you, I think, is what a lot of people are looking at. Some of us looking at straight cash, homie. Some need the straight cash, homie. And we've talked about this before. Brett Yormark, I think one of the big incentives for him to try to get a relationship with a major private equity firm is because of the next media contract. He wants a backup. He wants the ability to go into those exclusive windows with Fox and ESPN and say, look, if you're going to tell me to roll the dice, I'm going to be able to say, consider them rolled, just like Jim Delaney did back 12 years ago. Brett Yormark wants to improve his position, and to do so, he wants that private equity in back of him just in case he needs a landing strip with some big, giant streaming company. I think I've been told this like a year ago, by the way. And only recently, maybe 2 months ago, that I put that out there for public consumption. That is the main incentive why Yormark wants to go big. If he can go big, if he can get the presidents on board, which doesn't sound like it's happened yet.
Well, maybe that also might be the reason for the Big 12 ACC alliance, because they want the same thing.
Yes. Well, at least some of them do. Yes.
Thanks for taking the call.
You got it, buddy. Appreciate it.
Great weekend.
Yep, you too, sir. Great call. Now, I see a lot of people now. Tom Shea says, I saw everyone just go independent, screw the conferences. And a lot of people share that opinion, Tom Shea. But there's a problem with that. The problem with that is if you go independent, your value for the most part goes down with the media companies. It just does.
Call from
Replica.
Replica, can you hold on for a moment? I just want to explain what I just said. Going alone like that, not bundling your content with other universities doesn't work economically. Now it's worked for Notre Dame because they've been at it for decades and they're a national brand and they've got fans in the West Coast, in Chicago, the whole Notre Dame and the Northeast. They cover the country. And it's a risk. It's a risk for NBC to do a standalone contract with Notre Dame. They've been doing it since 1991. It's the reason why, and we've reported it here, that there's a sliding scale contract between Notre Dame and NBC, that Notre Dame had to make sure that there was enough top-tier competition in their home schedule year in and year out to maximize their potential earnings with NBC. It's why Notre Dame struck this deal with the ACC. If you are like a great example, and Replica is on the line, so this is a great time to segue into it. Texas went into a deal with the Longhorn Network, with Disney, ESPN. It gave Texas a whole lot of money. But the Longhorn Network did not provide Texas with the other part of it, and that is exposure. The Longhorn Network didn't have that many subscribers, and they did not have enough live content to fulfill the great appetite of the Longhorn fans. Most of it was taped shows. Yeah, you get into baseball season, softball season, but they didn't provide enough live content. That is why the Big Ten Network, that's why Texas said, I don't care if we make a little bit less in the SEC. We're going to bundle our content, SEC Network. People are actually going to watch us. They're going to watch the shows. A whole bunch of content is on. People bundling their content together is more valuable for the media companies out there. Now, maybe we'll get to an age where individual schools maybe be able to get a deal with some streaming partner that is just them, just between those two. I don't think so, but I'll leave it open to a possibility. But the NFL, the biggest, most valuable professional league, them and the big soccer league in Europe, they bundle all their stuff together. They don't knife each other. They bundle it all up together, and then they share all the media money. And then some franchises make more than others because they're more valuable local radio shows, TV shows, merchandise, ticket sales, just like here in college football. The Buckeyes make way more money than Purdue, even though they share the same media contract. The NFL, they know that if they bundle it together, they can make more out of Amazon, more out of whatever. So going alone as an independent, whoo, baby, that is risky. Too risky for a lot of people to do it, even try it. Florida State thought about it, but Mike Alford said, can't do it. It ain't worth it. Can't do it. Go ahead, Replica. The floor is yours.
Thanks for taking my call. I have a lot of questions, and I'm hoping you can make sense of all this for me.
You got it, buddy. I'll do my best.
Let's start with Clemson.
Yeah.
What has changed that's going to convince them to leave the course? Because they sued for a completely different reason than Florida State.
Yeah.
They were suing for the right to leave the conference with their media rights intact. Whenever that happens, it wasn't them trying to necessarily force their way out. So I don't see what they could have gotten in this little, agreement. I guess that's what we're calling it. That'll make them leave the course, because if I'm Clemson, I still want my media rights in the event I leave. And them getting a $5 or $10 extra million or a game with Notre Dame every year, I'm not seeing how that correlates to them leaving the courts.
Because I'm going to show you a tweet here. Give me a moment here. Give me a moment. This was from Ross Dellinger is reporting. I'm going to put up on the screen. I highlighted it, quoted it in my post earlier today. Should that agreement be finalized, the Kumbaya agreement, I'm calling it, something sources said is not imminent, but was closely tied to the ESPN option, Clemson and Florida State would be expected to drop their lawsuit. So it's not imminent, but it's closely tied to the ESPN option, this agreement, and they are expected to drop their lawsuits. After the live show yesterday, the second live show, I talked to a few people and they said, yeah, we expect Florida State and Clemson to walk out of there. Now, you're asking, well, why? Because Clemson didn't get what they wanted, right? It's what Clemson wanted was a cost certain on how to get the hell out of the conference, right? And they still really haven't gotten it. But we know that Graham Neff, he was just a speaker at the John Wall Street private equity presentation. We know that Clemson has been talking with private equity companies. We know that Florida State has. And we know that they've hit the wall because of the uncertainty in the ACC conference. So the choice for Clemson is, do we sit here in the courts for possibly, they haven't even gotten to the discovery stage yet. They're not even close to a final resolution. There hasn't even been a decision made for the appeal process to even start any of this stuff. So is Clemson supposed to sit there in the courts for the next 2, 3, 4 years while everyone else is taking advantage of possible private equity deals, small and big, institutional or conference-wide? That is what drove North Carolina to rattle everybody's cages. This is Clemson's been wanting to do this, but they can't. Florida State want it, but they can't. So that is why I believe they're walking out of the courts, because they're not going to get a victory in the next year or so. That is the main incentive.
Okay.
It's like
I can kind of understand it.
Florida State and Clemson were able to gather more leverage because of this private equity invasion. But it comes to a certain point where they're going to lose the leverage once other conferences are making deals. And we just saw the report about the Big Ten, and you better believe it that the Big 12 has been working on this, and the ACC needs to do the same. We just saw a report yesterday that the Florida State Athletic Director, Michael Alford, went to the Florida Board of Governors, and so did University of South Florida, Michael Kelly, the Athletic Director. They both went to the Florida Board of Governors, and they are requesting that they change the state law to where University of Florida State University can go to the auxiliary funds within the institution and get money out of there to help pay the bills. A lot of these athletic departments are cash strapped because of this revenue share era that we're entering into. So yeah, these schools are looking for more and more revenue. They need it. And private equity is going to be a part of it, if not a major part of it. And ACC schools wanted to have the same opportunities and options as the Big 12. One of those things that have to happen was the Kumbaya moment. And then the next thing that needs to happen is for Florida State and Clemson to walk out of the courts, which I expect to happen in the next couple months. If it doesn't happen, I'll take the big L here at Peek Around the Corner. But I think it's going to happen. I think these reporters expect it's going to happen. I think everyone does, except for a large portion of the Florida State fan base and the Big 12 fan bases. But go ahead, Replica. I hope that answers that first question.
Yes, that does. And I guess my second question is, I'm a little skeptical about this idea of these two conferences working together. And this is kind of the way I see it. Number one, you have the backdrop of the alliance in the background, which is part of the reason why the Big 12 is in the situation they're in, and a big reason why the Pac-12 isn't here anymore is because of that ill-fated alliance. So if I was in the Big 12, it would be hard for me to take that conference serious as a potential partner. And then what are they going to actually work together on? See, the Big Ten, the SEC can work together on things because they have power and they have influence.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the Big 12 and the ACC have enough power and influence for them to come together and it really be worthwhile. Because outside of the scheduling agreement for the football games, I don't see what they're going to be working on.
Well,
Like,
there may be, and again, this is a wild speculation. It's really not an answer, just wild speculation, that maybe they can work on some sort of condensed, smaller Super League, quote-unquote Super League package coming from a private equity firm that they could establish something together. Not a merger, but something separate. They're both separate conferences, but do something together with private equity. And that's a wild... What was that?
So are you suggesting they go off on their own?
No, not go off on their own. And I'm not even suggesting that this is going to happen, but it has been brought, like, the ability. Now, the Big 12 and the ACC schools have been going to these private equity presentations together. I mean, they've been there. They've been having these talks. There's been cross-pollination. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's a wild long shot. Okay, I want to make that perfectly clear. I'm just giving an example of something that they may be able to start talking about. I don't know. Look, I'm asking, are you ready to put the knives away? Most people, over 90% of the PATC community says no. Literally, like none of the Big 12 people nobody wants a kumbaya between the two conferences. So,
I think there was something worthwhile they would be willing to do it. So let's use a scheduling agreement for football, for example. Yeah. I think that's probably about the most they could accomplish on their own. The ACC has an exposure problem. They have one exclusive rights holder, and that rights holder has no interest in really promoting or doing what they can to make sure that conference is the best version of themselves. So even if you get pulled the best brands from those conferences, when it's the ACC's home games, what channel are those games going to be played on? Yeah, because it's not going to be ABC.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Depending on the matchup, it may not even be ESPN. So. Yeah.
Well, here's another reason, or another big moment that the Big 12 and the ACC should work together on, and that is this federal carve-out. The SEC and the Big Ten are talking in unison. They're spending time in Washington, D.C. There's going to be a lot of decisions made in that federal carve-out. One of those decisions is, how flexible is the cap going to be? They're going to get their antitrust exemption, possibly, in this federal carve-out. If it happens, the Big 12 and the ACC, they've got a lot of senators in their states. They've got a big, universities. They probably should come together and make sure their voices are heard in the construction of the federal carve-out. That's another example of maybe they should put down the knives for at least a moment here. What do you think about that?
That's a fair point, but I would counter that by asking who those senators and those congressmen and women, whose interests are they serving? Because you have, let's use the state of Florida, for example. The ACC, Big 12, and SEC all have schools in those conferences. Who are the Florida congressmen and women going to actually serve in that scenario? And I can just use the state of Texas, for example. The University of Texas has more political influence within the state than any other school combined, and that includes Texas A&M. if a big wig at the University of Texas wants something done, Ted Cruz and all the other congressmen and women in the state are gonna act on the behalf of the University of Texas, and they're not gonna take the other schools into consideration.
I would say that. I mean, you're right. I would say that Texas A&M has a whole hell of a lot of. They've got a lot of political pull on Ted Cruz.
I don't.
You look at the demographics of University of Texas in Austin and Texas A&M. What do you think is the higher percentage of those demographics that voted for Ted Cruz? For just one example, Texas A&M.
No, 100%. But Ted Cruz he's a wishy-washy fella. He'll do whatever he can to keep his seat.
Yeah.
If you catch my drift.
No, I understand, all politicians are like that. All right. Well, I'm not trying to poo-poo on what you're not. I just have a lot of questions. I don't have the answers, but I don't know. You see the budding relationship between the SEC and the Big Ten. And I believe, and a lot of people don't agree with me, but I believe the ACC has established some stability, and they're going to be able to hit the private equity table and see if they can make any deals now. And I think they should combine forces with the Big 12 in Washington, D.C. But most people are disagreeing with me in the PATC family.
Well, if it's for the better of the sport, I would agree with you. I have questions about how effective an alliance would be. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on both sides, particularly the ACC with their legal situation, their contract situation, and also there's a lot of arrogance over there in that part of the country. Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, thanks for taking my call.
You got it.
Have a good one.
Appreciate it, buddy. Great call. Great call. Replica, once again. Tremendous phone call. I don't have all the answers. I don't even have all the questions. Morris Simmons. Florida State has not pulled their lawsuits. Correct. And I have seen that on X probably 50 different times. In my DMs, probably 15 different times. Nobody expected Florida State to be pulling their lawsuit this quickly. All the reports, and again, I just stated this, it's not imminent. Clemson and Florida State would be expected to drop their lawsuit, and it's closely tied to the ESPN option. But it's not imminent. It's not happening today. And because it hasn't happened today, really is no evidence that it's not going to happen. But people are using that. So I don't know. It was never imminent. And Greg, that was a bipartisan statement. I don't know what you guys are talking about. We didn't make any political statements, guys. We weren't making any. No politics, please. Look, we were strictly talking about the influences of universities on a particular senator. That's all I was talking about. We weren't talking bad or good. And I took a shot at all politicians. My bad. But we weren't, I don't think we were doing what we were being accused of in the chat room. All right. So anyways, that's it's according to the PATC family, I'm going to put a poll question up. Poll question. Should ACC and the Big 12 form a budding relationship and put their knives away? That's the question. Vox is getting censored. How is he getting? Who's censoring Vox? There is no kumbaya for Clemson and Florida State. Oh boy. I'm gonna give a little bit more time on this vote. We've got 34 votes already put into the voting box. Yes or no? Should the ACC and the Big 12 form a budding relationship and put their knives away? Five more seconds on the vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 41 votes. 59% says yes. 59% says yes. Don Scruggs. Don Scruggs is like Ryan Thomas. Who called all this earlier today? What did you call Ryan Thomas? I don't know. I don't know what you called. Don't know what you called. Gold Black 45 gifted a membership. Thank you so much, Gold Black 45. A gift membership. Holy smokes. Thank you so much for your kindness, Mr. LSU Tiger. Rob Devick was gifted a membership. Thank you, Rob Devick. Appreciate it. Thank you, Go Black 45. Rob Devick, when you get an opportunity, please say thank you to Go Black 45 for his incredible generosity once again. Holy smokes. Go Black 45 and Rob Devick, you are hereby knighted cloak and dagger. Mr. Devick, you can go to our YouTube channel and watch our Early Peak Cloak and Dagger membership only channels. Go to the whole library. There's over 400 episodes for everybody to see. And I think we're up to 53 Early Peak Cloak and Dagger episodes. Trent Brown, they should definitely hold hands. Get sponsorships for some tournaments. Have the sponsors pay the teams as they advance. Trent Brown advocating. Holy smokes. Go Black, you are always generous. I do appreciate it. I appreciate the LSU Tiger coming on in here. Thank you so very much. Everybody smash that like button. Appreciate it. Define budding. A start of a beautiful friendship. How about that? How about that, Vox? How about that? Okay, I want to thank everybody. We've been on the air for over 2 hours. Thank you for coming on in. Friday, January 31st. We've covered a lot here. One, today was a very important day. It was the last day that you could file an objection to the House versus NCAA settlement. A lot of objections have come on in. April 7th is the day that the judge is going to rule on derail approval on this settlement. We shall find out April 7th. Hopefully we find out on April 7th. And then February 19th, 20 days away, the Big Ten and the SEC meet in New Orleans in that budding relationship to talk about the future college football format. And of course, next week, we are going to be talking about the football season for 2025. I'm going to be releasing. Everyone else has done it, but I have put a hold on it. way too early top 25. A lot of other publications and YouTube channels have released their way too early top 25. I haven't done it because I'm still breaking down tape, looking at everything. So my way too early is going to be coming out early next week. I got a feeling that there's going to be more and more news and details about the Kumbaya moment in the ACC and private equity deals, small, medium, and large, and all different sizes, all different shapes. I think we're going to be hearing about more meetings with private equity companies, more breaking news, and when it happens, we are going to be covering it all here at Peek Around the Corner. So make sure you subscribe, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button if you've liked our content. I do appreciate you all coming on in. I also want to say special thanks to Gorb Ricky Tungate. Massive super chat. Thank you so much. R. Webb for becoming a member of Early Peak Cloak and Dagger. Bill G for his continuous gifted memberships. Holy smokes. Thank you, Bill G. Expedition Greg for his super chat. The massive super chat of Mr. Rock Chalk, Jayhawk, Vox Quindaro. Holy smokes. Ryan Willie for his gifted membership. Thank you so much, Evo Badger. I appreciate it. And his super chat claiming that he wants the axe back. You're not going to get it back. Not this year. No way, no how. Skyuba, go Gophers, row the boat. Morris Simmons, thank you so much for being a member for 11 months. Ryan Thomas, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. And Gold Black 45 for your gifted membership. Once again, Mr. LSU Tiger, Gold Black 45. I want to thank you all for joining us. Keep your head on a swivel. We could be covering breaking news throughout the weekend. We're definitely going to do a live show during the weekend. Definitely tomorrow on Saturday. I got a few ideas. So keep your head on a swivel. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, this Rebel Outpost channel, and smash that like button before you leave. Until next time. From all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.